Here.
No, I'm not a writer.
Okay.
And good morning, this is Mike Lodge. I am the business advisor, and here we are again on another dark morning because there's no sun up yet as I'm doing my podcast. So I'm up early, and you guys are still in bed. But that's okay. Snooze away. So yesterday, late in the afternoon, an indictment came down on Donald Trump. And the Twitter and social media went crazy with all this news. You had the people for him to go to jail, to be indicted, and then you had the other people who said, no, this is a travesty to justice, and it's going to create a lot of legal battles and legal issues and unethical parts of the legal system that we all kind of probably knew it was there, but we didn't realize it was so bad. I was reading an article this morning which really struck me on the education of attorneys. I'm going to put the link down below so that you can read it. There are two articles I want you to read. But they were talking about how attorneys are being trained now. And one of the schools, they talked about Yale and they talked about Stanford, which are the top law schools in the nation. But the problem is, how are they being trained to represent clients in the law? And there's a high concern that our attorneys are now being taught so much on this social justice type situation that they are missing the importance of the Constitution. Normally in first-year law students, when you go to first-year law school, they are taught the basics. They are, of course, the fundamental courses in the legal profession. Contracts, torts, property law, civil procedure, criminal law, and the most important, constitutional law. But however, the first-year law students at Stanford are being taught totally different types of classes that is not associated with what you need to know in the basics of the law. They have to take some discussion courses, and those are courses you go in and you discuss and you can debate. But the so-called discussion courses required for first-year law students at Stanford, you want to know what they are? I'm going to give you two. In Search of Climate Justice. And in this course, it tells students that our rapidly changing climate demands that we act quickly and robustly to decarbonize the economy. Does that have anything to do with law school? What would be more basic? But to get a biased course on how we should treat the environment. Another required course that they're being taught is Race and Technology. Teachers that technology is not race neutral but shaped by historical prejudices, biases, and inequalities, and thus is no less biased and racist than the underlying society in which they exist. So when attorneys are being taught this type of social political nonsense, expect bad attorneys coming out of the legal profession. And I'm sure Bragg believes in all this stuff. And this is what drives him. Not based upon constitutional law or criminal law. He has this attitude now that is being taught in most law schools now to let's get back at these people. Let's get them. We don't need the law. We don't need the practice of law. We don't need the Constitution. No, we don't need any of that. But it's political law. And that's how we're going to get these people, is through our political law. It's a terrible situation when we can no longer trust the attorneys or trust the legal profession or trust the judges or trust the district attorneys, because they are now all subject to this social justice type legal system. It's not about the law. It's not about the Constitution. It's about social justice and who they can destroy through their social justice views and beliefs. And it's not just Stanford, it's Yale, it's Harvard. They're all teaching these types of courses that have nothing to do with the law. I think it's time that we start looking, when you're hiring an attorney, make sure that you know what school they're from and what the practices in that school on teaching the law is all about. Because you want to be represented, because you see, we still have the Constitution, and that is the foundation of the nation. The Bible is number one, and the Constitution is the second law of the land. And we have to be very careful about the attorneys that were putting in places that should never be. If you listen to the United States Senate as they are talking to these judges, and you can see very clearly that these judges know nothing about the law. I was listening to Senator Kennedy ask questions of a person that's going to be a judge, a federal judge. And they could not answer even the basics of law. But you see, that's the evil of this whole system, is that we have allowed this social justice system come into place instead of the Constitution. It's amazing. Go to YouTube and pull down Senator Kennedy's questioning of these attorneys and these people that are being put up by the Biden administration to be judges and attorneys, and you really get the gist that these guys have been so pounded into them that social justice is more important than the Constitution and the rule of law. Their rule of law is no longer the law. Just as we're seeing in Bragg's situation right now, he went to a grand jury. He was able to say everything he wanted to say. The other side gets to say nothing. That's how grand juries work. The grand jury system is a one-sided situation. And the other side doesn't get to present an argument, doesn't get to present the facts and documents. No, it's all up to the district attorney to be able to talk to the grand jury and present his views of what the issue is, the legal issue is, and then to get an indictment. But you have to remember, an indictment doesn't mean that Trump is guilty. Anyone who gets indicted by a grand jury does not mean he or she is guilty. That means that they're okayed to go on to court, to be heard by a judge, to be heard by a jury. That's all the grand jury does. The grand jury is not saying they're guilty. They're not saying that they're innocent. They're just saying, okay, you get to go on to the next step, and that's to have a fair trial before a judge. And then the other side, the Trump side, your side, my side, whoever is before that judge gets to present their case. based upon the law, based upon the Constitution. Not based upon the social justice warrior D.A. Bragg. No. Both sides get to be heard. And the side with the most legal standing and the best argument is the one that wins. Keep that in mind. A grand jury does not mean that that individual is guilty. The court, the jury, and the judge are the ones who will sit there and make judgment, not the grand jury. That jury of the court that gets picked by both sides, not like a grand jury, they just sit there and make decisions, but by the jury who gets picked by both sides is the one that will make that final decision. The DA doesn't get to make that final decision. See, the grand jury is so far different from the jury that's in the courtroom. The grand jury just sits there and say, okay, yeah, this should go on to a judge. This should go on to another jury. It does not mean they're guilty. Grand jury has nothing to do about guilt or innocence. It's just saying, go on to court. We approve it to go on to court, to a real court. But the problem is, and we're seeing it in our education system of attorneys, is that they are being brainwashed with wokeness. So you, as a consumer of legal services, have got to make a very clear and precise decision on, is this attorney the one for you? And luckily for you, you've got Google. You have a whole bunch of ways to determine what law school they came from, what their priorities are at that law school, and the success of this attorney. And if they do not align with what you want in your legal case, you don't have to use them. Especially if they've come from Stanford. Stanford is the place where they just had that judge give a presentation and get booed down by the students. And then the diversity officer came in and booed him down also. Luckily, she's been put on leave of absence. And the students have been required to attend the Second Amendment class. For one full day, a Second Amendment class, to meet the school's diversity program. But you see, this is how attorneys are being trained now. So we need attorneys that are truly trained in all the aspects of the law, not on social warfare type situations. That is our problem. Our legal system is not fair. I hate to say this, but we can change that. We can change that. This is Mike Lodge. If you have a question that you would like to present to me, send it to thebusinessadvisor@gmail.com. And if you would like to sit down and talk about business advisory or consultation or even coaching, go to my website and you can schedule an appointment with me online at www.lodge-co.com. Remember this, the Constitution is the foundation of this nation. Learn it, practice it, enforce it. This is Mike Lodge. Love you guys. Talk to you soon. Bye.